Welcome to this quick tip video. My name's Anne from Orchid Systems, and in this video I'm going to run through EFT processing for payroll, both Canadian payroll and US payroll, how to email and print payslips or pay stubs. The topics I'm going to run through are the configuration required, both in EFT processing and in payroll, how to email and print the payslips, how to test your configuration, and what procedures to follow when upgrading versions. The configuration that is required is first in EFT processing, you need to configure which crystal report to use for your payslip. And it will be either from the CPXXA-ENG directory or whatever language you're using, or the UPXXA-ENG directory or whatever language you're using. And then you need to tell EFT which email address to use for the employees, whether it's the one on the EFT employee record or employee email address on their Canadian payroll or US payroll employee record, or if you want to print the payslips for this particular employee. You need to also specify if you want to password protect the PDFs that are being sent to the employees, and if you want to keep a copy of these password protected PDFs on your drive. So we'll run through where that's set up in EFT options. And finally, for the email configuration, you need to be using SMTP in sending your emails, not using the Open Outlook client, as we cannot attach passwords to the Open Outlook client PDFs. In order to configure what the report you want to use for your payslip, you go to EFT Setup, Options, and then on the Default Advice tab, you fill in the crystal report name that you want to be using for your payslips. So if you're using Canadian payroll, this will come from your CPXXA and then whichever language you're using, or if you're using US payroll, this will come from the US XXA and whatever language you're using. And then if you do want to keep a copy of your payslip, you can fill in a directory here. If you fill in this directory, then when the PDF of the payslip is created, it will be saved in this directory in a subdirectory per company, and it will be numbered with the employee's number and the payroll period end date. And if you are storing your PDFs in this directory, even if you're not storing the PDFs in this directory, if you want to password protect the PDFs, then on the payroll tab, you need to select that you want to use remittance advice passwords. So the remittance advice passwords apply both to the remittance advices and to the payslips. And here you specify a formula of the password. So in this case, it's going to be the left 3 characters of the employee number, and then join to that the right 3 characters of the SSN number. But you can put a formula of any variable from the employee's record, either the EFT employee's record or the employee's record, into the password. And if you put a password at this level, then there will be an overriding system manager or administrator password that can open the files if you fill one in. You don't have to fill one in. But also on the employee level, if you choose to, you can then overwrite the payroll password at this level too. So if you fill in a password here, it will supersede the password that comes from the options. And if you're applying passwords, then you must fill in a payroll SMTP address in order for EFT to email the payslips using this SMTP server. If you're using the Open Outlook client or the Sage's SMTP server, then we're not able to apply a password to the PDF because Sage is controlling the PDF being sent out to the employee. So you need to fill in SMTP details here so that we can control what the attachment or which file is attached to the outgoing email. The second piece of configuration you need to do is to define the email message template for the payslips. The variables that you can use in your email message template are in the F1 help, and these are the variables that you can use. And finally, in the EFT employees, per employee, you need to specify whether you want to use the email address in EFT, in which case it's going to use this email address, or if you want to use the payroll email address, in which case it's going to use the email address on the UP or CP payroll record, or if you specify mail, then it's going to print the payslip. We have seen where to configure the crystal report for the payslip, how to configure the email address or if the employee wants a printed copy, how to password protect the PDFs and where to define the directory if you want to keep a copy of the payslips, and where to do the email configuration. Now we're going to look at how to generate the payslips. The payslips are generated from the EFT processing EFT reports, the print payroll stub/slips report. But first you need to go into your CP or UP payroll transactions, calculate your payroll, and then go into your payroll checks. And when the checks have all been printed, but just before they're posted, you must leave that screen open and then go into EFT reports and print your payroll pay stubs or pay slips. This is because the payroll checks creates temporary files which are used in the payslips, and those are only available when you print the payroll checks and before you post the payroll checks. So you need to have that screen open, the temporary tables populated, and then go ahead and open the EFT reports, print payroll stubs or slips. And when you run the report, you will select the delivery method you want, either employee, and then it'll be email or print, depending what you've set up on the EFT employee. You can confirm the report to use and select the email message template ID to use. In Calculate Payroll, assuming this is my next payroll run date, I would go ahead and click Process to run my payroll. And then go into my payroll checks to print these checks. And when we go ahead and print preview these payslips, if we are happy with these contents, before you say yes, all the checks are printed successfully and they get posted, you need to go into the EFT option and print the payslips. And you should confirm that this payslip form is the same one that you're using in EFT. So in the EFT reports, print payslips, you now select whether you want to do the print destination, i.e. your currently selected print destination, or your employee's destination, and therefore it will select the EFT employee's email address or the employee's email address or the print, depending what you have set up on the employee, and go ahead and print. And this will email the payslip to those people who are selected for email, print for those people who are selected to print. And if you have opted to store a copy of these on your network, you will have a copy of these payslips, these PDFs, with the password protection on your drive, and the attachment to the email will also be password protected. So in my case, all employees were being emailed, but had I set any up to print, those would have printed at the same time. And if I look in my configured directory, which is C Orchid Payslips, I see my company ID Orc Limited, and then per employee, I have the PDFs that have been attached to the emails and stored in this directory. And if I open the PDF, I get prompted for the password. If I were to rerun the process, having set some of my employees to receive their remittance advice and payslip via print, and I need to select this box as I have already emailed these employees, the employees that I've set for print would print, or in my case preview, as I have not selected print as my print destination. And the remaining employees for email would go ahead and be emailed. And the summary reflects 2 were printed and 8 were emailed. Here is an example of the email. And when I double click to open the attachment, I need to type in the password before it will open up. Because it is so critical that you run the EFT report print payslip before you say yes to accept the check, you may want to use notes to alert the users at the time of printing the checks that they need to run the report before they say yes to print checks. You could also customize the print check screen using Extender and add a button to call the EFT print payslips at that time to make it easier for the operators too. So we've just seen how you need to first calculate your payroll and then print your payroll checks. And then before you say yes and post them, you go to EFT reports and print the payroll slips. And you can specify the delivery method either to your own print destination to print preview, or the employee's destination to email or print depending on their preference. You select which report you want to use or change the report you want to use, and the email message template ID. When sending emails for the first time and after any upgrade, you should always test your report and test the email routine, and to ensure that you're both picking up the correct report and the correct password is being applied to the report. So what we recommend you do is you export all or a decent range of the EFT employee email addresses and import in a tester's email address so that all the emails get set to one person to test. And then go ahead and do your test payroll, print your payroll slips and select email. And then check that per email that you receive that you've got the correct attached PDF contents, that the PDF password is correct, and your email template body is correct. Once you're happy with that process, then you can import back the employees' email addresses and you're set to go. One scenario we have had reported to us is where the payroll report has been amended. So the payslip has been amended from the original, and it no longer has a selection criteria for each of the check numbers. And this is bkreg.serial. So if this is the case, if that has been commented out or removed from the report, you'll end up in the scenario where all employees get emailed all employees' payslips. So you do need to check that first and do this full test that we're describing. Similarly, when you come to do an upgrade, you should retest in full. You should check if you can use your old payslip in this new version of payroll, in which case you can copy it from your prior version's custom directory or programs directory to the current version program directory or custom directory, or take Sage's standard sample and redo the changes that you need to do for the client. And then retest as we described previously. Again, make sure that you haven't commented out or nobody previously working on this site hasn't commented out the serial number, and you can refer to our knowledge base article, Emailing CP or UP Payslip Stubs to Employees, where it shows the crystal selection criteria and what's essential to keep in the report. Thank you for watching this video. For more information on EFT processing and other Orchid products, please go to www.orchid.systems. And please also refer to the other quick tip videos we have on emailing remittance advices and T4s and Releve 1s.